Hej.
Hej. Ser du fin ud?
I lige måde.
Tak.
Do you want to do it in Danish or English?
Danglish.
Danglish. Danglish. What is Danglish?
A little bit of Danish and a little bit of English.
Welcome to the Pink Taxi.
Thank you so much for inviting me. What a privilege.
So start telling me, what's your name? How old are you? Where are you from?
Okay.
Are you married? do you have kids?
Okay. Are you working for the CIA? My name is Lesley-Ann Brown, otherwise known as Black Girl on Mars, the Lab, the Bandit Queen, and I'm 51 years young.
You're 51?
Age is a construct, yes.
I would never have guessed.
Okay.
Never.
I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
Whoop whoop!
Yeah, Brooklyn. And I've lived in Denmark for over 20 years, the longest I've ever lived anywhere. My parents come from Trinidad and Tobago.
Really?
Yeah, Caribbean.
Oh.
And I also lived there like for 4 years. And I have a child. I'm not married, and I'm really enjoying being single and like really spending time with myself. Okay, so I'm a teacher and a writer, and one of the things that I write about and I also talk a bit about a lot is my fascination with the book Don Quixote. Mm-hmm. So Don Quixote is about this man who like read all these books about knight errantry. He read so many books about being a knight that he got convinced that he was a knight. So the whole Don Quixote narrative is about this man who thinks he's something, and he goes out into the world and he engages with the world as though he is this thing. So what fascinates me about this story is my realization lately, there's this idea that many of us, we're in a trance.
Yeah.
So your trance could be like romance, for example. If you watch a lot of romance movies, a lot of us get very indoctrinated and we think that relationships have to look this way, which is a very neoliberal, capitalist, sexist, patriarchal way.
That was a long one.
Yeah.
Sexist.
So, I mean, at this point in my life, I'm just really unpacking like how much of who I thought I was is actually programming and being under some sort of trance or various trances, whether it has to do with gender, race, sexuality. So I'm really like, you know, how much of what I have been carrying around is mine and how much of it is other people's or society's.
And how come you started that? Was it because something happened in your life? Was it something that you just woke up one day and were like, this does not feel right?
Do you want me to be honest with you?
Yeah.
I have been fortunate.
You're always honest in the Pink Taxi. We never lie.
Yeah, my healing journey started, or my journey of self-awareness, I should say, started with an ayahuasca ceremony I took.
I so want to try that.
Yes. I really have had a lot of experience with psychedelics within clinical and therapeutic
shrooms and stuff.
Yeah, magic. Mushrooms. Yeah, not as a recreational, but and I'm not recommending anyone do this like on their own. It really work with someone who knows what they're doing. But it really breaks your ego down, because that's the issue I think about our culture, is that we're so ego-based. So we really overly identify with things. You know, like, you know, you over-identify with being a woman, or being, you know, in a certain body, or being this race, or being from this country. This over-identification of our ego is what's separating us and alienating us from actually our true source. And if you really think about it, all of us actually come from the same place, which is from, you know, where I'm coming from, Earth.
Yeah. Earth. Simple.
Yeah.
So the ayahuasca...
I write about it in both books. My first book is called Decolonial Daughter, Letters from a Black Woman to Her European Son, and I touched upon it there. And then my latest book, which came out in February of this year, is called Black Girl on Mars. And there I kind of delved deeper. So what was going on with me up until I did this ayahuasca experience, I was very hardened in my heart. I was very depressed. I had a lot of hatred for, like, I was a racist.
Were you?
And my son, who's half Danish, he just looked at me one day and he was like, you know I'm half Danish, right? So I had to check myself and really just start to understand what was it. Now I understand like how people get so locked into this racist mentality, for example. And that's another thing about the healing.
Why is it?
I mean, for me, where I am right now, I think that a lot of the symptoms are from trauma.
Why don't you move back to Brooklyn? Like, why did you stay?
That's a great question. 2018, I left Denmark to go on a trip to promote my first book. So I went back to the States with this idea of entertaining returning. I was like, okay, maybe I want to come back here. And during that trip, there were a few things I realized. And one of them was I have been here longer than I've been anywhere. And the second thing was, and this was also through my psychedelic journey, etc., is that really confronting how my generalizations were actually hurting my experiences. What I mean is I've been here in Denmark for over 20 years, and personally, Danes have been great to me.
They've been really nice.
It's been really nice. What was really triggering for me was when I used to consume the news. And when I started to understand Danish and started listening to the media, that's when my process of hardening my heart and becoming really kind of intolerable began. So now I don't do any of that because I understand that the media, what their number one job is to divide people. So I was under that spell, and then I broke it with the help of psychedelics.
Do not try this at home.
Don't try this at home. I'm just saying,
So if your life was a movie, what would be the intro song?
Oh, well, lately I've been listening to I'm Embracing the Bitch in Me. Because that's healing. Healing is not rejecting who you are. So I really enjoy that Rico Nasty song. Thank God I didn't have to smack a bitch today.
Do you listen to Tupac or Biggie?
Both and I don't listen to hip hop anymore.
Do you believe in Illuminati?
Okay, so check this out. Part of my belief system is that I don't believe in hierarchical structures. So hierarchical structures, it's there's a leader and then there's the bottom, right? So when you think about it, the hierarchical structure is pyramid shaped in our society.
Yes.
So in that sense, we're surrounded by pyramids. So that's my answer to your question.
That's a good quote. That's a good answer, I must say. What does your book, what is it about? Is it about your trip or is it about you? Try to explain more about your book.
Okay, so the first book, I wanted to kind of fill some historical holes, both personally and generally for my students, because I'm an educator and there's a lot of information that if we are not vigilant about will get hidden. And when these stories are hidden, we don't have examples of stories of resistance, of alternative heroes, all sorts of things. So I try to really include that in my work so stories don't get erased. And then the second one, because I took this impromptu book tour back to the States, which I'll call Turtle Island because that's what the indigenous people call it, I just kind of wanted to shed a light and with the vocabulary that I know of settlements, of the earth, of my environment, of where I am as a Black and indigenous woman, right? Those identities in this project of modernity. I go through some of the cities and the states I visited. Because I took this impromptu journey, I was able to be with my grandmother, who is like, you know, she's like my mama.
Yeah.
I was able to be with her when she passed, when she transitioned into the next plane. Because of that, I also went to Trinidad for the first time in over 13 years.
Really?
Yeah. So all this, it's about looking for home.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I come back to the teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh, which is basically like, especially when it comes to trauma. So trauma is a fracturing of yourself, right?
Yeah.
So healing and home is reintegrating yourself. That doesn't mean you don't have the cracks, but it means that wherever I am, I'm showing up fully present.
Yeah. Did you not before? Were you not present?
Absolutely
Were you
not. Oh, totally. As if you, for example, like me, had a childhood that was constant trauma. So it could look like neglect. It can look like abuse. It can look like not having a primary caretaker who's like, you know, responsible for your emotional and physical well-being.
Yeah.
You know, so when you're exposed, when you're a child and you grow up in that environment, you lack certain intelligences and knowledges, and it really fragments you in a way that psychedelics help heal.
And now we go back to the psychedelics.
And to be fair, I did a trauma therapy called soul retrieval, which does not involve psychedelics, and it doesn't involve any substances. That was actually just as instrumental in my healing. And then it takes you back. Your trauma therapist will take you back on this psychic journey, again with no drugs, to your space of trauma. So when I did this trauma therapy, I realized that my deep trauma was being left alone. But it wasn't even in the personal sense. It was really in this very universal sense. I mean, I was left alone when I was a child, so that's there. But this soul retrieval, instead of feeling lonely about it, it made me feel in pluriversal company with it, meaning that, okay, so I used to write this blog called Black Girl on Mars, Notes on a Life in Copenhagen, or How My Alienation Brings Me Closer to People.
So when you say alienization, it means being excluded or being like feeling like an alien?
Yeah, feeling separate from. Totally. Yes. So that soul retrieval was really instrumental because I felt how alone I felt. And in feeling how alone I felt, I had this immense compassion for myself kind of like blossomed. And when that compassion for myself blossomed, I immediately became more compassionate for other people.
What is your goal in life?
My goal in life is to be lovingly present for myself and whoever I find myself in the presence of.
That's your goal.
Yeah. I want, like, if someone steps to me and, like, you know, blah, 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 I'm capable of breathing evenly and holding space for that person who's so obviously in trouble in the way that so many people have done for me. That's my goal.
That's your goal.
Yeah.
What would be your advice to young people?
To don't take anything that anyone says as truth. Research everything. Get away from this way that we're socialized to think, which is this either or. Get into practicing both and. So things are not always polar opposites. We have to learn to make room within ourselves for both and. Right?
Yeah. It has been a pleasure, Leslie.
We had
not a lot of English, but a lot of English on this ride. I learned a lot about you, but also the whole experience that you have, the process that you're going through right now, and I think it's super inspiring.
Excellent.
And so interesting.
Excellent. Hi, Scott. You look amazing.
You too.
Thank you.
I'm still in shock of your age.
Well, you know what they say, it's a melanin, babe. You too. How old are you?
43.
Yeah, same thing here, please. All right, love you.
Right back at you.